Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Sign Association of Canada information session with SignTracker and our speaker, Joe Arnella. My name is Corinne Eaton. I'm the Executive Director of the Sign Association of Canada. And thank you very much for taking the time. Before we go to the information session, I will just briefly mention a few of initiatives that are happening right now that we want all of our members to be aware of. And then I'll pass the microphone, so to speak, to Joe. All right, so we are, in terms of Sign Association, so I have this always as a first slide, because some members forget that as a member, you're a member of a very multidimensional association. So you're a member of your own region and chapter, you're a member of SAC, and if you're a Class 1 member, meaning you're a sign manufacturer, you are a member of ISA. So as such, some of the resources that I'd like you to know about are the training sessions. ISA keeps on adding to their library of online learning resources, and they just added 2 new sessions. So this screenshot was taken in March, and they had 73 online courses. Right now they're up to 80. And so the latest course that they just added is Leader as Coach, how to bring out the best in your people. And they also just added a session on social media marketing. So if you have the time and it's for you or your employees, it can be just as short as half an hour or even longer, an hour, depending on, the session itself and the content. It's very simple and to use. Okay, we're social. So the fastest way to find out what is going on is through our social media feeds. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And you can connect with us through Sign Association of Canada, Ontario, Alberta Sign Association, and I think, sorry, I'm just, because we have people who are joining, and hopefully I'm admitting them all. Okay, so, and IKEA as well. Okay, and membership benefits for our members. So today we're going to have an information session from SignTracker. We also have other benefits from other members, affiliate partners, Enterprise, First Data, Flagship, Mark's Work Warehouse. I'm not going to go through it all. Visit our website, check it out. If you want more information, connect with us, and then we can provide you with that information. I would be remiss if I did not mention this. A virtual night out at the Boxies. Every year we have Sign Expo Canada, and we have the Friday night. Unfortunately, I had to cancel Sign Expo Canada due to the pandemic, but we still want to celebrate the sign industry and the wonderful individuals who are part of our industry. So September 25th, mark your calendars. You can connect with us virtually and celebrate the best of the best in the industry. So as part of that, we are encouraging all of our members to nominate and submit their work. So it's 2 separate things. So for Boxies, and you will see that on your right-hand side, it's boxy.ca. And so this is 12 different sign categories. Enter your work. I know that they have received a lot of entries already, so this is going to be an exciting year. I can't wait to see the finalists and, of course, the winners. And, of course, nominate Canada's Best. So please do nominate the Sign Professional of the Year, Young Professional of the Year, and Volunteer of the Year. So deadline for the SAC Awards for the Sign Young and Volunteer of the Year, deadline to nominate is August the 10th, and Boxies is this Friday. That's the deadline to submit the work. All right, so I am gonna move on to the topic at hand today. So as part of our mandate to continuously improve our member value proposition, we're pleased to bring on board our new affiliate partner, SignTracker. And today we're going to talk about sign shop management software. So job flow, team tasks, quoting, and a lot more. And I can't really do it any justice. So without further ado, I am going to give the mic over to Joe.
Okay, so Jeff, Signature Signs, Lance, how are you guys doing today? Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. All right, so before I get started, I just wanted to, before I share my screen, and I guess I'll do that, Hillary, right? Yes, I'll do that on my end, so okay. Just so my background, I've been in the sign business for 20 plus years. I started as a sign salesperson, and then I started my own sign company with another salesperson at our company. We grew the business over 10 years. We ended up with like 60 employees, and we did a lot of national electric sign projects. Then I sold that business and then ended up starting a, well, actually took a little time off of the sign industry, and then somehow I got sucked back into it because that's just how it goes. Once you're in for life. But I ended up starting another small sign shop where we just outsourced all of our projects. So we mostly focused on project management and design. And thankfully, I worked with my daughter and my son-in-law in that company, so they took that over so I could focus on SignTracker. But in the course of growing those sign companies, it was always so frustrating for me to find the right tools to manage workflow, to find the right tools to manage quoting and be consistent with all that. And the few times I did purchase software, it was so complex, it was very difficult to get my entire team on board. On top of the fact it was expensive. And then I would end up just using a small percentage of it, but paying a lot of money for it. So we ended up developing our own system. Mostly it was Excel based and Access based, and it was internal. And I started, we were using some of the forms that we built to hire sign shops around the country to do work for us. And they kept asking me, hey, where'd you get this form? Or how'd you get your quote like that? And so, after a few times of being asked that, I decided, maybe I should try to put this together and do something for sign shops. So in any case, it's been sort of a love, passion work over the past 10 years. And mostly it's been part-time up until about a year and a half ago, because we now have so many sign shops that just made sense to do this full-time. And I have two business partners that are developers, and we do all the support together, and then they do the development. And they've learned a lot about the sign industry over the past years. And so anyway, we're here to help you guys if you do decide to take SignTracker for a spin. So anyway, I will share my screen with you. And since there's only a few of us today, usually I do webinars every week anyway, and you're more than welcome to join me. I do them, and you can find them. If you have signed up for SignTracker, you can find links to our webinar on the dashboard. Matter of fact, I have one today after I meet with you guys. But I do them every Wednesday afternoon, and some weeks I even do more, and you're welcome to come to any of those. And then there's on our website, there's recorded webinars you can watch and training videos. So, but I'll give you a good overview today. I always like to try to show people how I use SignTracker on a daily basis at my sign shop. And I'm just gonna minimize my view of you guys. There you go, now I can see my screen. I'll show you how I used SignTracker at my sign shop. And if you have any questions as we're moving along, since there's just a few of us here, don't feel like you can't stop me and ask a question. But so when you sign up for SignTracker, and you do that through our marketing website, so just basically click here, it walks you through the process. It's at sign-tracker.com. And then for you guys, since we're giving you, usually it's a 30-day free trial, but we're giving the Sign Association a 60-day free trial. So you'll get an email confirmation from us confirming your account and all that. If you forward that to me, we'll go in manually and set your account for double the free trial. So you get 60 days to really play around with it and evaluate it for your shop. But anyway, so once you're in SignTracker, there is a dashboard, and I know some folks, really love, the dashboard view, and it is a great way to start new jobs in the system, new calendar events, create companies, create people. Also, you can see all your stages of production, and you can customize this to whatever your workflow is. And so what it does is it'll actually kind of show you, hey, why do I have, you know, 5 jobs that are past due in production, or why do I have, this many jobs hung up here? So it kind of helps you evaluate where your bottlenecks are. Also on your dashboard, you can access any job that you're associated with. If you have calendar events that you're associated with, those are going to show up here as well. There is a full-blown calendar in SignTracker, and all the jobs and all your tasks will show up there. So, and you can filter these out. You don't have to look at, you don't have to look at meetings at one time. You can just look at jobs or whatever. And then on due dates, you can just slide your jobs around and it'll change them throughout the whole system. You can click any of them, it'll take you to your job as well. So, and same with your tasks, you can move them around, and we'll get to that. I'll show you where all that stuff lives. But if you like to see all your jobs in a calendar view, they're here. And you can print your calendar as well. And there's a weekday and month view. So contacts, if you use QuickBooks, all of your contacts will sync with QuickBooks, and then every time you enter, once you've gone through the merger process, anytime you enter a new contact, it'll automatically put it over into QuickBooks for you. You don't have to sync with QuickBooks, but right now, currently, we do sync with QuickBooks Desktop version, all the way up to the latest version of QuickBooks Desktop, as well as the online version of QuickBooks. So the thing about contacts, we've kind of set it up where you add companies and you add people. So let's say, for example, I go to this particular company. I can see every job I've ever done with this company, and you can also search for jobs, throughout the whole system too. But I can see every job, the history of all the jobs I've done with them. But also, once you set up a company, then you can start adding people to the company. So if I, go here, I can see the jobs for this company that I just did with this contact. So that's really helpful, since it seems like most sign shops will work with, especially if you're working with, say, property managers or design firms or something like that, where you maybe do a ton of jobs with many different individuals at that one company. So it kind of helps keep all that sorted. And when you set up a job, that's where it's going to capture all that information. So, okay, so now I want to show you how I would use SignTracker, and how I was using SignTracker when I was working with my daughter, actually. But basically, I lived in this job tab. So for me, I would come to work in the morning. I would have, my job. This is a job list view, so work in progress view. And all these columns are sortable, so you can sort out jobs that maybe you're working on. You can also sort jobs out by stage. So say if you wanted to just work on everything that was in design. There's also a really good search feature here. So for me, if I knew I had to work on a bunch of different jobs in the course of a day, I would just stay here. So this tab was always open for me. And then I would come in here, and I have a Mac, so if you have a PC, it's the control key, but on a Mac, it's the command key. And so I would still keep my job list view open, but I would open up jobs. So if I was to create a new job, and I'll just show you that really fast. I'll use this existing job so I don't torture you with having to watch me type really slow. But say if you were in the system and you wanted to just start, a brand new job, which you can also do under the job tab, new job. It's going to open this screen. You can name the job. You can put a brief description in. If the company is already in the contact database, it's going to automatically populate all their information once you pick them. But let's say, for example, it's a brand new customer, like John's Greek Cafe, and you've never worked with them before. As long as if someone calls in and they want to quote on a banner or whatever, something simple, you don't have to necessarily capture all their information to set up a job. You can just put the company name down. I always tell people, it's really good to try to get a phone number and an email address, but even if you just wanted to just make it super quick, you can enter a company information, then come back later and fill this out. If the job's a product or a service job, if you're a shop that has multiple people and you know right off the bat who's going to be managing it or who's actually selling it or repping it. If you have a due date, you can put that in here. Usually on brand new jobs, you don't necessarily have a due date yet. You're just giving a quote, but if you do have it, you can put it here. Say if it's an existing customer and they need something in a week or whatever. And that'll add it to the calendar. That'll show up on your job flow board. It'll show up in your job list. So throughout the whole system. And then if you have a location, you can fill it out and then save it. So that creates your job. And then, like I said, it brings you to this, I like to call it an electronic job folder, but this is where you pretty much do everything in your job. So once you've created a new job, from here, you can adjust due dates. You can move it from stage to stage. And I'll talk about where the stages are set up in a second. But then you can also, and then it gives you a summary. It tracks the history so you can see when the job was created. And as it moves from stage to stage, you can see who moved it. So it'll track that. You can create tasks on jobs. Now tasks, this is another area where I lived in this because I would forget to tie my shoes in the morning if it wasn't on the checklist. But anyway, you build these task templates and they can be very extensive. Like this is obviously a simple one. So it's just for a quick little banner. And then each of these tasks can be assigned to people in the shop. So I can assign it, if I'm just assigning it to myself, it's fine. If I'm going, I can set a separate due date for this task that's separate from the due date of the project overall. And then, you can write notes on tasks as well. So for example, if, you tried to deliver to the customer, they weren't there, whatever, you can make any little note you want on a task. Or if you're assigning the task to somebody in the shop and you really want to talk to them before they start this, you can write a little note on it. And once tasks are assigned to people too, they'll get an email as the task, is assigned to them and when it's due. So, but I'm going to just really fast delete these 4 tasks just to show you. So you don't have to you don't have to sit and write tasks out for every single time you start a new job. You build these templates, and the templates can be, they can be really extensive. So for example, I'll say a large project, if you do, say if you sell channel letters or, you require site surveys and you're pulling permits or clearing, utility lines or whatever. So you can make these really extensive from, initial client meeting, landlord approvals, if you guys have to deal with that up there, permits, work orders, so, and again, these are assigned to people, and then you can assign due dates and notes and all that. So I'm going to show you, you don't have to, you have all these jobs and all these tasks, but basically if there's a master task list. So this is the other tab that I would have open all day. So I would kind of bounce back and forth between my list view. And even in the list view, by the way, you can change, due dates. You can also change stages here as well. But my tasks, I would come in here and it's going to automatically default to me because I'm signed in as myself. And I can see tasks that are due anytime, and I can see tasks that have any status. So for me, if I always had a ton of tasks on every single job. So I would come in here and I would mostly just say, hey, what do I got to do today? So this is a demo account, so this doesn't look too sexy because there's no tasks for myself. But if you had tasks, if you had them and you were using them, that all show up here. And so you can say, hey, this is in progress, and hey, it's done. So once you mark these as done, it also tracks them real time on the job flow board. So and I'll show you this in a second, but you can see the percentage of completion on your tasks. And if you're at the shop, if you're managing everybody in the shop, you can view the tasks of all the employees. You can see where everyone is at with getting things done. If you're a person that really likes to just work off a checklist, you can come in here, you can choose tasks for today and print the list. And then you can just scratch them off if you want to keep your list on a clipboard. You can always come back in at the end of the day and say, yep, finish that one. Yep. And, so, and that would only take a few minutes. But so this is your master task list, but I would definitely spend, I would just keep these open all day. So I'm going to show you the job flow board. This is another view of the job list. So all these jobs that are here, that are open, are here. So when you first get into SignTracker, it's only going to have 5 columns: open bid, pre-production, production, install delivery, and closeout. I added these other columns just as I'm in with my demo account showing people how to use SignTracker. Hey, can I have a column for ready for design? So you can set your workflow up any way you want. So the job flow columns are in the setup, and it's pretty self-explanatory. And so anytime you start a brand new job, it's going to automatically drop it in open bid. So I know a lot of sign shops will say, well, hey, I don't really call it a job unless it sells, then it's converted to a job. And at our sign shop, we just called everything a job, even though it was really more of an opportunity when someone called in and requested a bid. But the reason why we set SignTracker up this way, because even in a situation where it's let's say it's a new customer and they have a logo and there's a few things you need to get together to give them a bid, we felt like we always needed some place to store all that stuff. So that's why we had everything set up as a job. So, and again, back to that, these job cards on the job flow board, if you open this to edit, it's going to take you to this screen with the overview. But so that's why, we would set everything up as a job, because we could, even if it was just a few tasks that needed to get done before the customer signed off, or there was some notes you had to take, or attaching their logo files, and then ultimately doing the quotes too. So, but with the job flow view, we at our shop primarily use this for production meetings. We have some sign shops right now that have bought big monitors. They love this visual. They keep the job flow board on a big screen all day long in their shop, and I think that's great too. And so once a job sells, then it'll move from open bid to pre-production. So if you're a person that's responsible for scheduling, a job sells, you can come in, you can assign a due date to the job, and then you can slide the job to wherever it needs to go. The other thing about the job flow board, it allows you to prioritize jobs by resource. So let's say you're looking at jobs in production, and this, Joe's Pizza, it's a small banner, and your printer is open, and you get a big job that's running in the afternoon. Okay, well, let's bust this one out. Even though the due date might be, a couple days off, we can bust a couple of them out because the printer's going to be tied up all afternoon. Or it could just be that that client is more important, they pay well, whatever. So there's a lot of different reasons why you want to prioritize jobs. Primarily, it's going to be based on resources. Anyway, and so once a job's ready to move into production from pre-production, again, you can mark it as ready for next stage. You can also put jobs on hold. So if you say you're waiting for a color approval, or you're waiting for permits if you deal with permits, so you can put jobs on hold, and then again, once it's ready for production, it'll go in there. You can unblock it, and then start working on it. And I set up this column for subcontract because at some shops do everything in house. I always like to recommend that my second sign company, we outsourced everything. So we didn't have a single printer. We just really focused hard on design and project management, and had really great strategic relationships with wholesalers. I'm finding that more and more sign shops are doing that, or at least a percentage of their sales are going out to wholesalers. And even when I had my bigger sign shop, we had 60,000 square foot shop with spray booths and welders and router tables and the whole thing, we would still shoot for 100% capacity at our shop with 75% of our sales. And then we would try to always outsource 25%. And I always try to tell sign shops that's a great model if you can do it for a couple different reasons. One, you can grow your sales without having to get a bigger building or buy more equipment or hire new people or give a bunch of overtime to folks. You can just kind of, focus on the sales and the project management. And then if something like COVID happens, and the economy just contracts super quick, well, you're going to stop giving work to your wholesalers, but then you don't have to get rid of, really good people that have been with you for a while. So that was always the split that we tried for. We didn't always do it, but we tried really hard. So anyway, that's pretty much the job flow board. The other thing we use the job flow board for us at our shop was production meetings. So we would do, if you have production meetings every day, good for you. We weren't ever really that disciplined, but we were pretty rigid about Monday afternoons for us. And Monday afternoons, it would give us Monday morning. So if you're not having production meetings, this might be a good schedule for you, but Monday afternoons, it gave us Monday morning to do all the fun things that Monday morning usually brings, you know, putting out fires and getting things rolling. But then after lunch on Monday, we would have a very detailed production meeting. We would literally go through every single one of these job cards and would check the tasks, what's going on. So this is the percentage, you know, of the tasks being completed. You can see, of course, this is my demo account, so it looks like I'm a slacker here, you know, not getting my tasks done as they move through the system. But the goal is by the time you get to the closeout stage, all your tasks are completed. But anyway, we would go through all of our jobs in great detail on Monday afternoons. And then that would give us, you know, the last hour or so of the day on Monday to close up the day, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. And then Thursday morning, we would have more of a stand-up summary production meeting, kind of look if anything is falling through the cracks or what needed to be expedited to wrap the week up. So then we would finish the week out. And then once a job, the goal is as they move, as your jobs move through, production, once they hit the closeout stage, the goal is that all the tasks are completed, the customer is happy, and the only reason why they're sitting in the closeout stage is generally because you're waiting for the final payment. And you know what we did at our shop is my controller, you know, would, you know, they'd put an invoice like, you know, invoice date, you know, that sort of a thing. And so we knew that the final invoice was sent out on, you know, that day. And then once the job was, once the final balance was collected, then she was the one that would move it to archived. So anyway, so that's how the job flow board worked. And you can see like dates, it'll color them, you know, with whether it's past due or due within 2 days or a week. So, and the job flow board too, you know, you can, once you get it all set up, you can have it so you don't necessarily see all the details. You can filter out these columns. So if you're a person that only deals with production, you don't necessarily need to see the open bids or the archive. You can close that stuff out. So, okay, so I'm going to close the job flow board and go back to our job. So tasks, I showed you the task management page. Quotes and contracts, we'll come back to that in 1 second. Attachments, so you can, you know, you can upload your production files and then you can view them here on the web as long as they're, you know, files like PDFs or JPEGs and all that. But you can put any file up here. So it's a great place to keep all your files, especially once you archive the job. So if you're going, if this particular customer calls you back in 6 months from now and wants the same banner, you can go in, find that job, clone it, and you'll have all the documents there too. Notes. So notes are, you know, notes are great. Multiple people can log in and take notes on a job. The thing I used notes for all the time was I would get emails from customers, and I'm a Gmail user, so I would have these thread conversations with customers where there's like 10 emails grouped into one, and it would kind of drive me nuts because I knew I had an email with a color approval or a size approval or something like that. So I just started getting into the habit is anytime I get an email from a customer on a job, especially if it was a job that required action, I would just copy and paste the whole email and just put it here. And that saved me a ton of times. I use that a lot. So, but yeah, it's nice because it's going to show you, again, anybody can make notes in a job. The other thing is forms and sign templates. Those are really great resources. Sign templates, you might already have, you know, a lot of these in your shop. A lot of smaller shops don't have necessarily a bank of sign templates. So if you know, these are great. You can have your designer download them. They're all vectorized. So it depends, you know, if you use Adobe Illustrator or Corel or whatever you use, they're PDFs, but all the vector has been preserved. So you can edit the text and you can do whatever. And there's dozens of them in there. This is a simple one, but there's, if you do, you know, channel letter sets at all, I mean, some of these are pretty, you know, pretty detailed with schematics and all that. And again, they're all vectored. So you can get in and edit them and add your logo and do whatever you want with those. The forms, so forms, same thing. You can, I always tell people, you know, if you ever get some downtime, because there's a lot of forms in here, and these were all the forms that we use to manage our shop. And we've added some since we started, but there's all types of work orders and survey forms. And, you know, if you're a person, like if your shop has to do field surveys for whatever reason, these are great. I personally would just print it and put it on a clipboard and take my notes. And then I'd come back and either fill it in here and save it to the job. Or a lot of times what I would do is I'd be in the field, because back to the attachments, for example, like if I had to go in the field and do a survey, I would take my iPhone, I would snap a bunch of pictures of the building, and then I'd go to SignTracker, open up that job, click that gray square where the attachments were, and would automatically go to my camera, and I'd upload all my survey photos, and then I'd fill this out on my clipboard by hand, and I'd usually take a picture of that and upload that to my attachments too in the job. Because inevitably, somehow, between my survey site and getting back to the office, I would lose my paper with all my measurements. And I'm sure that's never happened ever to you guys, but it seemed to happen to me a lot. So anyway, it's just helped me a lot. But there's a lot of forms in here. So if you have some time to get in and open them all, I think you're going to find that a lot of them are helpful for a lot of different types of jobs, and especially like even graphics jobs, vehicle wrap surveys. I mean, there's just a ton of them in here. So let's talk about quotes now for a few minutes. So quoting, you know, it's the part of any application that just freak people out. You know, it's like, oh, I got to enter all my materials and my labor rates and all that. And we've tried to make it as simple as possible to do that. But, you know, that's the part of the app that does take a little bit more time. I always try to encourage people, and that's under settings. You know, you'll see quote setup. I always encourage people to try to build some templates for like the top 10 projects or whatever that you do. So if you sell a lot of banners, build some templates for banners. If you do vehicle wraps, build a few vehicle wrap templates, channel letters, etc. So, but the thing with the quoting is it's very flexible, and it really doesn't matter what type of sign projects you sell. Basically, you build these templates. Like for example, this one, Coors. So we have a client that does, they do signage for beer distributors, and that's pretty much it. And so they ended up setting up templates for each of their different brands, and then each of the sign types. And basically that's how they set their templates up. But you can set them up for, you know, pretty much anything. And banners, you know, I'll use a banner one just because for the sake of being simple. So I'll show you what one of the templates look like. And again, in our recorded webinars and videos, I go through this pretty slow, the setup process and all that. So if you guys, you know, end up going with SignTracker, you know, watch those as you working through the setup process, or just reach out to us and we can help you too. But basically, how these templates work is you have, if you can see that moving, you have these item categories. And what feeds into these item categories are either your material rate, your material list, your labor rates, or your formula items. So in this item category, I just have my material showing up, and then I can set a separate markup for each of those different things. So maybe you mark up materials different than how you mark up labor, and so you can kind of play around with those. And inside, when you're actually setting up materials too, you'll see it. There's actually a little markup tool. It doesn't have it for the labor and formula items, but there's a little markup tool inside each labor item as well. Because I know some sign shops, you know, they mark up vinyls different than they mark up inks, different than they mark up substrates. And then also I always encourage people for things that get cut, routed, and you're gonna have waste, you know, you might want to put you know, a 10% markup on that before it actually goes into the quote, just to cover things like drop and all that. So, and then the same thing, you know, another item category, labor rates. And so with labor rates, I'm finding that a lot of sign shops, when they're setting up their labor rates in the settings, they're actually putting in the labor rates, what they charge their customer, which is fine. You know, once you know, so when you're setting up your templates, you would just not have a markup there. That would just be 0%. If you don't know exactly what your labor rate should be, there's some really good calculators out there that'll help you calculate what your overhead burden is, your labor burden is. And if you want, you can send me an email. I have a really good one. It's an Excel document. It's an Excel worksheet, and it basically kind of walks you through a bunch of questions about your overhead, your insurances, all that kind of stuff. Then it kind of, you know, gives you a rate of what you need to charge in your shop just to cover those expenses per hour, per man hour. If you know that, then that's great. You know, a lot of sign shops seem to have a really good feel for what their hourly rate should be. So, but again, labor rates, you have a choice. You can enter it in at your cost, and then add your markup, or you can enter your retail rates. And that's the same with formula items too. So there's not a category on this one for formula items, but I could add a category. I could say formula items here. You know, same thing. I could have whatever percent markup, and then I could just have formula items show up in the drop-down menu. Generally, if you're inside of a job, you can edit these templates any way you want. You can add things to them. So once you build these templates out in detail, you can add additional items. It's not going to hurt the template bank. So every time you do a quote within a job, no matter what you change or edit, it's not going to hurt the original template that you built. So, and then like formula items is the last type of item. So formula items, and you'll see this when you're going through setup, it's generally anything that is, you know, a lot of sign shops have, you know, square footage pricing or upright inch pricing or whatever, that kind of thing, or just a completed product. Hey, for a 4x8 banner, a flat fee, $200. And so that could be considered a formula item. So formula items, anything outside of just a straight material or a straight labor rate. When you're setting up your templates, if you have salespeople and you can preset, you know, commissions, that's fine. If you're quoting a job and you want to add an upcharge, let's say, for example, it was a rush order, you know, you can add, you know, $25 or whatever. Or I always like to say, you know, if it's a special client and they're a pain in the, you can add a PITA charge. I'm sure you guys don't have those types of clients in Canada though, because you guys are very nice. Discounts, same thing. It'll go by category and just, you know, discount whatever discount you might put in. Extras, and you can or cannot use these. It doesn't matter. It's when you're setting up the templates. At our sign shop, you know, we liked to always have things basically down the bottom of the contract that was lined out, that wasn't included in the, you know, the labor rates above or the sign. So things like permits. So if a permit was $250 and a survey was $100, we would break those out down the bottom of our contracts. That way there, if the client, you know, said, hey, well, it gave the client a better idea of what the actual sign cost. And then those things were things that were, you know, basically out of our control, right? The city requires a permit. What am I supposed to do? Taxes. Now, if you're syncing with QuickBooks, and if you are syncing with QuickBooks, I would probably think about doing that sooner than later, just because it's just so much easier. It'll bring all your tax categories over. And for you guys in Canada, I know there's different, you know, VAT taxes or whatever, but we've worked all that out. So you shouldn't have any problems. But if you do, you know, reach out to us, we'll help you with it. So when you're setting up these templates for the description for the contract, you can type in a nice description. And if, say, you added something up here, extra design time or something, you can, again, you can add to this, and it's not going to hurt the template that you created. And I just kicked myself out of it. Sorry. It's when I hit the backspace too fast. Notes. So the client doesn't see this. So any kind of, you know, note, if you, a part number or something, anything that you wanted to remember about this quote, if you came back, why you charge what you charge, you come back to it, you know, a few months from now or whatever, it'll be there. So once you're done, you save it, and then it's going to give you a summary page. And then at that point, you can generate a contract. And again, if this is a job, so under jobs, you can have multiple items. So for example, if it was a job where you had a banner and you had some window graphics and a vehicle wrap, but they were all going to one customer at the same time, they were opening up a store and they just needed all this stuff, you don't have to set up separate jobs for each item. You can quote, multiple jobs, and it'll all show up on one contract. The contract notes, the customer does see this. This is where you probably want to put something, or hey, we need access to the space or whatever. And then I save it. And then it's going to generate a contract that you can send off to the client. So, but anyway, there's other things in SignTracker, reports that you can look at. And yeah, I mean, this, we're trying, really hard to keep SignTracker as simple to use as possible, but yet still effective in your shop. And so this is just, pretty much an overview of the system. But anyway, I guess at this point, if I'm going to come back to all of you, I can open this up if anybody has any questions or.
Joe, we have a question in the chat box from Signature Signs, and they're asking if the software has any tools for purchase orders or inventory estimates.
It doesn't have purchase orders and inventory. So basically, we're kind of encouraging people to keep using QuickBooks for that. At some point, we're actually in the process of doing a kind of a rework of our quoting, which will include a section on the material. So we are actually considering putting in a kind of an inventory light, so at least help people keep track of their minimum and maximum shelf counts, and then generate a purchase order just to suppliers to be able to order, what they need. But for right now, it doesn't really have that in it.
Our attendees, if you want, you're welcome to say it out loud, but I will also read off this one in the chat from Signature Signs. Sorry if I missed it. Is there a space for uploading all documents that pertain to a job?
Yes. So if you're inside of a job, attachments, and you can upload your attachments there. So you can also drag and drop them or upload multiple at the same time. And if you are a company that does site surveys, you can also log in through your browser on your phone and upload survey photos and all that. But yep, all that's there.
I apologize, I missed a question from Jeff Wallace, which is, do you have different management levels so the owner can control the necessary tasks and be the only one who can change them? Yes,
and so when you're setting up your employees, you can give them permission you'll see it, there's a permission structure in there. So when you're setting up your employees, there's either a staff or there's admin roles, and they can have access to like reports and quotes or not. So you'll see all that in there.
Jeff would also like to know, is there a limit to the space on the website?
Not right now. Basically, on our marketing site, it does say that there's a limitation, to like big shops, it's a terabyte or whatever. But to be honest, we're not really even tracking it because storage is so cheap right now. So right now it's unlimited. At some point, if we get to a point where we're blowing up our server, that we're paying for, we might end up doing that for very, very reasonable. But for right now, no.
So I think these are the same questions, because Signature Signs is asking if there's job costing or time cards linked to the jobs, and then Jeff is asking, is there a costing component like time cards, etc., and a space that we can have our manager enter job costing?
There is a form under forms for job costing. It's not automated where people would track time on tasks. So it's more like it would have to be entered in, hey, I spent so many hours on this task, or I spent so much material on this job. So there is a form for that. And at some point, any suggestions on how to keep that as simple as possible without overcomplicating the system so it's a little bit more automated, we're all ears on that. So.
I'm not seeing more questions in the chat, but I do have one of my own. How long are quotes stored? So let's say somebody asked for a quote right before COVID hit and then they didn't move ahead, obviously. if they come back to you in a year, 2 years, is it still saved?
Yes, and so under your job list, once you archive a job, so you move it to archive, all your jobs, you don't lose them. That's why I always encourage people, they take up such little space, like you don't even if you didn't get the job, don't delete it, just move it to archived. So the thing about once they're in archive, you can search them and they're here. They'll also always remain as part of the customer's history too, once they're set up. And you can either unarchive them from here. So basically you would just take it and move it back to open bids, or the other thing would be you can clone archive jobs too. So if I clone this job, for example, so say if it's the exact same job and now I want it, you just move it out of archive. Or if it's a job where that's, a year ago they ordered a banner and now they want to order the same banner, you can actually clone the job. And so you can decide, do I want all those crazy notes on the original job? No. Do I want the tasks? No, I'm going to set them up again separately. Or you can, but you can click quotes, clone it, and it's going to basically drop it into the open bids column on the job flow board and on the job list. And then you can go in there and edit the quotes any way you want. But they last, once it's archived, it's there forever,
I think we might have addressed all of the questions.
That's all the questions?
I have a question.
All right, Lance.
It looks like most of my questions have been answered, but I'm guessing from what you said that when we get this software, it doesn't come preloaded with any product categories or pricing. You have to do all that yourself?
It does come preloaded with some labor rates, formula items, and some materials, like a base of materials. But I always tell people on the labor rates, there's about 20 of them that are pre-populated, and on the formula items, I think there's around 30 of them. So I would start with those, editing those, and making sure that they are in line with what you've been charging, and that literally should take you an hour of your time. And then once you've edited the formula items and the labor items, then the materials, that's the one that's always a little bit of a booger. You got to try to get them up. You can upload them as a CSV file, so it can go faster, but there's, you'll see them in there. It's under settings. So in the setups under quoting, basically what you have is you have your material rates, your labor rates, and your formula items that feed into those templates that I showed you. And the templates are basically just, your item categories. Then you use those to, build out all your different, product templates. So when you're setting up the templates, you would go to your master template first. And this is just a blank master template. And what you do here is you basically set up what you want to show up in your item categories. So if you material, that's what your markup wants to be, I wouldn't add any items or do anything. Just kind of set this up, and this will be the standard for building all your other templates. And then once you're done kind of tweaking this exactly the way you want it, you save it. I won't save mine. And then you go new template, and that's when you start building them out. Like, I'm going to build this out for a banner, a 4x8 banner. And then I'm going to save it as a 4x8 banner template. So I always encourage people, again, like I said earlier, if you build, a dozen of these things on the products that you sell the most, that's a great place to start. And if you need help with uploading CSVs, like if you can get your supplier, your main supplier, to export a CSV file for you, with your materials and the pricing that you pay, there is an import tool, and you can try importing yourself. But if you get stuck, just give us a holler and we'll help you with that.
Okay, thanks.
The other thing I should show you guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Hillary.
Okay, I'm reading out a question. One is, do you come into the shop for site setup and training?
I live in Texas right now, so if there's any way that you guys could sponsor me to be a Canadian citizen, I'll move into your shop. But that's probably not. I don't think you guys are going to let us in at this point. I would, I would love to, but I tell you what I'm more than happy to do is we can set up these, and I set them up all the time, these one-on-one webinars with Zoom, and I can log into your SignTracker account with you and see exactly what you're doing and coach you. So usually that does the trick. And so I'm more than willing to do that with any of you guys. And my schedule's usually really wide open. I keep my afternoons open to do these webinars and teaching and support and stuff. So anytime you want to try to schedule a one-on-one, just hit me up. I'm happy to do it. I was going to also say this chat icon here, if you guys can see that okay. This goes to myself and my two business partners. They're developers, but they've been stuck with this old sign dog for a while now, so they know a lot about the sign business too, and especially how you guys might use the app. And so all three of us get these, and we're here to help. So I mean, don't feel like you're ever bugging us to give us suggestions on the app. Or if you find anything that's a little challenging for you, or reach out to us. Also, I have upcoming webinars are always posted here. They're on the dashboard too, but they're always posted here as well. So always feel free to use this, and you can always call us to our phone numbers on the marketing site. So, but I think, for you guys, if you want to get in and try SignTracker, it's free for a couple months. You don't have to enter a credit card in. There's no contract. You can cancel at any time, or you can, convert and be a SignTracker customer. So either way, no pressure, that's for sure.
All right. So if nobody has any questions, and if you'll have Joe's contact information, and like you pointed out very kindly, that you can connect with him through SignTracker. Thank you very much, Joe, for the time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It was very educational. So I will just go through just a second. Share screen. Last few items that I wanted to mention. And all right. So, and this is just so that our members are in the know about what else do we do. So we have the Young Professional Network Zoom meetup, and the next one is on Thursday, July the 30th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and the topic of the conversation is Dream Big, the future of the sign industry. These are open to everybody in the sign industry, so whether you're young or old, a newbie or a veteran in the industry, and they are always a really great conversation. Highly recommend. Then we also have our Breaking Barriers discussion. So on August the 12th, we're going to be discussing building your personal brand. We just had a test session today, and I know, again, the discussion is going to be great. And we're going to delve in, well, however much we can, into what is personal brand, and just some tips and tricks on how do you go about, if you have never thought about it, how do you build your personal brand? And then on Tuesday, September 15th, we're going to discuss it's a presentation on how women rise. It's available to all SAC members and ISA members. And this is it. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time and joining us this afternoon. And we will see you at our future events. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.